Welcome to Merger Wednesdays on the Final Boss podcast, where the future isn't coming, it's already happening. This is the merge, the convergence of AI kind and humankind. Not theory, not hype, but real-time evolution. Each week, we break down doctoral-level insights, turning complex innovation into conversations that move culture forward. From machine learning to human consciousness, from automation to identity, this is where intellect meets impact. The question isn't if the merge will happen, it's who will light it. Tap in, level up, and think beyond the algorithm. This is Merger Wednesdays. New era, same boss.
Welcome to the Final Boss podcast. Listen, I am the one and only the Final Boss. I don't know why I sound like I'm echoing, but we're gonna have to get through it. Sounds like I'm echoing over here, but I don't know if I'm echoing out there. But you know, it is what it is. It's those daggone gremlins, man. Daggone gremlins. Anyway, man, I got a great show for you tonight. As you know, this is Merger Wednesdays, right? This is a doctoral episode, right? We go deep dive in the relationship between humankind and AI kind. And that's really bothering me. Wait, is the reverb on? Reverb. Test. That's echoing. Test. Test. Huh. Okay. All right. Guess. Hey, we're here. We are here, man. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us, man. No matter where you are, to whomever you are. Thank you. If you're part of the smarts, motivators, warriors, and final bosses, you're at the right place. So you're at the right channel. You're at the right podcast, man. This is the Final Boss podcast, Final Boss Nation, Final Boss family, Final Boss community. You are here. And if you are here, man, then you need to be here, right? Because tonight we're going to be talking about something, man, that is happening. And a lot of people on abreast of, right? A lot of people on abreast of a lot of the different biotech things that are happening in the background, right? Or the translation of the IO BNT of things, right? That's bio nano of things, right? You have the Internet of Things. You have the it's a whole bunch of them out there. Go do your research, right? But we're talking about the IOBNT, which is the bio nano of things, right? So tonight's episode is episode 238. This is Merger 21. As we are approaching the mid-season, right? We're approaching the mid-season of both the Final Boss podcast and Merger, right? So a couple of things that are going to happen at the end of this season. So Merger year one book will come out probably sometime next year, right? Merger year one, right? That's going to engulf all things merger since the beginning, from the first episode to episode number 53 is when year one ends. We just left arc 3. We are now in arc 4 for merger, right? So tonight we're starting the construction, right? But let me get into all that, man. But to each and every single one of you, no matter where you are, always remember that this is for entertainment purposes only. And here is the greeting of the day, right? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. It is the greeting of the day, and you are at the right place at the right time, right? Hey, Chakandi, how do I sound on your end? Do I sound like I'm echoing over there? Let me know. Let me know. Let me know in the chat, right? So let's go ahead and get rid of the. Oh, look, got a few admin notes I need to get out. First, if you haven't gotten All Aboard the Fired Up Train, please go pick up All Aboard the Fired Up Train, right? That is the manuscript, right? Please go pick it up, right? Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you are like, share, and subscribing all of the content. You want to be on a show, or you'd like to send us a letter for your town hall? Send us a email at info@thefinalbosspodcast.com. That's info at thefinalbosspodcast.com. Also, you can check out all of our websites. Not websites. I posted all the websites earlier. Websites on the brain. All of our podcasts, man. All of our podcast episodes are on our website. The website is www.thefinalbosspodcast.com. That's www.thefinalbosspodcast.com. Yo, Joey, what's going on, my man? I see you. Salute, salute, salute. Hey, this is the doctoral show, man. So if you win, buckle up, man, because we're going straight doctorates on tonight's episode, right? That's what we do each and every last single Wednesday. So I just mentioned to you that season 4, The Rebirth, Arc 3, The Foundation, closes. Tonight, we begin Arc 4, The Construction, right? And Year 1 series is coming, right? Year 1 series is coming. This is Merger Wednesdays, right? So, oh man, whew, got that out the way. Look, today was a busy day, man. Today was a busy day. As you guys know, I walk across that stage on Friday, man. I'm super excited about that, man. I can't even contain myself. But a few things that are going on in the background right now, I'm going to keep you abreast, right? These are my last admin notes before I get into the show. And I've already been talking for 7 minutes, okay? So, the white paper, right? The white paper for the merge, the living white paper is simultaneously moving, is being written, right? It's a part of the companion deck to the podcast. That's also part of the foundation to my dissertation, right? And tonight's question is this. We're going to lead tonight with a question. Tonight's question is, what is the actual infrastructure that turns isolated brains into shared consciousness layer? And what does it cost to participate? That is the question of the night, right? And as always, here's the brass tacks, man. That was the question of the night. Think about it. Think about it, right? Don't spend too much brain power on it, because we won't go into the information, but think about that, right? And here is the brass tacks of the evening. The internet did not connect computers, right? It connected the people sitting behind them, right? The consciousness internet does not connect brains. It connects the sovereigns, or it connects the cattle, right? The infrastructure does not care which one you are. But tonight, we're going to go through the blueprint before the building frees us, right? That comes from yours truly. That's tonight's brass tacks. Right? So, what if, man? What if? What if you were sold the internet as freedom, right? Freedom of information, right? And 3 decades later, the people who built it walk around with stiff necks, with neck pains, with sleep debt, right? And an algorithm that knows there's their daughter's birthday before they do, right? Don't you just love those reminders? Don't you just love them, right? You should never forget another holiday or your loved one's birthday, right? All due to social media. Thanks social media, right? Now, they are building the next layer, right? Not for our screens, not for your phone, but for what's up here, right? Stay with me, right? The consciousness internet is not a metaphor. It is not science fiction, right? It's not some Black Mirror episode. And it's stack verified, right? Peer reviewed, FDA tracked, venture funded infrastructure that already exists in locations on Earth and one orbit above it, right? 3 subjects in University of Washington lab put on EEG caps and a transcranial magnetic stimulation rig back in 2019. And they played Tetris with their minds, and they called it BrainNet. The senders told the receiver what to do without speaking. 81% accuracy, right? Published in scientific reports. The first social network of brains, and it's working, right? Listen, that was 7 years ago. That was in the lab. That was the parent, right? That was the POC, proof of concept, right? Now, 7 years later, the implants are in human bodies. The wireless stack runs 1 terabit per second, right? And it's working on the next level of Starlink satellites, right? The cloud sits in low Earth orbit, right? On the star cloud. The brain reads at 1,024 electrodes per chips at Neuralink, right? The Internet of bio-nano things, we talked about that earlier, right? Runs on 6G molecular communication channels through your bloodstream. Through your bloodstream, right? The infrastructure is not coming, the infrastructure is here. The question is whether you are reading the blueprint or whether the building is reading you, right? Welcome to Merger Wednesdays, people. How you like that opening, right? Episode number 21 of Merger, episode number 238 of the Final Boss podcast, right? Tonight, as I said earlier, Arc 3 dies. Arc 4 is born, right? We continue the year 1 series of the Merger series, right? Arc 4 is the open. It's the construction. It's the consciousness internet and where it begins, right? And the rebirth is not just a season title. It is the lens through which we build what we do, right? And it must be read or the build owns you, right? Tonight, as you know, Merger Wednesday is doctoral, right? It's verified. The architecture under the architecture, the 4 communities in the room, they get the same data set, right? The same protocol, the same standard, right? Smarts get the engineering schematic. Final bosses get the sovereignty connect, right? Motivators get the awareness ignition. And my warriors, they get the perimeter strategy, right? All 4 pillars going to eat tonight. Nobody leaves the room hungry. Everybody leaves the same, right? Listen, the forge is hot. The microphone is live. The build is on, right? The clock is running. The consciousness internet has a physical address, and tonight we read the deed, right? It's go time, man. It's go time. Are you ready to get on the fired up train? Listen, we're going to do the fired up train tonight. That's never been done on a Merger Wednesdays, right? So all aboard the fired up train. It is go time, right? So listen, for all the new ears, for all the new ears that are in the room, here is the network you just walked into, right? The Final Boss podcast is a 5-show weekly broadcast, right? Sitting out Sundays is the sanctuary chair, right? Motivation Mondays is the ignition seat. Tech Tuesdays is the pressure test, right? And Merger Wednesdays is my doctoral chair. And this is where you are tonight, right? And special guest Thursdays. Special guest Thursdays, man. I think I might have to rename that, right? I think I'm going to have to rename that because my special guests haven't been all the. No, I'm not going to say that. We've been having some problems, man, getting special guests on, man. If you want to be a part of the show, shoot me an email, right? But special guest Thursdays is supposed to be the mirror, right? But we've been adjusting as we go, right? We've been adjusting as we go. So every show airs live at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Every show feeds the same mission. Right now, the Rebirth season 4, right? The structural operating system that says the old version of you does not survive this build. The new version is who you become, why you build, right? Merger Wednesdays run right into that internal architecture, right? Year 1 is 53 episodes, 8 thematic arcs, right? The consciousness sovereignty architecture is the dissertation track that holds it all together, right? And tonight is arc 4, episode 1. The consciousness internet begins, right? So behind us in the rearview mirror, right? We're driving. No, we're on the train. We're on a fire train, right? But we're looking out the window, maybe in the rearview mirror. Stay with me, right? Arc 1 is the foundation, and we named it the 3 layers, right? Smart blood, nanobots, and smart dust, right? Arc 2 was the deep dive into each layer at the lab level, right? And Arc 3 was the neural interfaces and brain computer integration, which is BCI, right? We closed Arc 3 last week at Merger 20 with the signal harvest, right? The inner speech is no longer private. The decoder works, right? Go check that episode out. But tonight, the perspective changes. Arc 4 stops asking what a single brain can leak. Arc 4 asks what the network around the brain looks like, because that's the direction we're headed in, right? What carries the signal once it leaves the skull? What stores it? What forwards it? What learns from it, right? What sells it? What weaponizes it, right? This is the consciousness internet. The physical infrastructure for shared consciousness, the roads, the pipes, the towers, the satellites, the data centers, the protocols, the handshake between bodies, the mesh that lets brain, talk to cloud, talk to brain, right? I know that was a lot. Stay with me, right? The plumbing of the merge, right? And for the record, the entire episode belongs inside of the Merge book series, the Living White Paper, the companion deck, right? All sync protocol. This episode does not cross over. It stays, right? And that's a non-negotiable. But the format doesn't change, right? It stays the same, right? So if you're ready, go get you a pen, get you a glass of water. Class is in session. Let's get clear, right? The build is doctorial and the build is yours. The Rebirth says the brain that walks is in. Not the brain that walks out, right? Not the brain that walks out. I was trying to make sure I said that correctly, right? So before we go onto the floor, here is the brass tacks, right? Here's the brass tacks. Burn it into the wall, tape it to a mirror, bring it to your soul, man, right? Here's the brass tacks, right? The internet did not connect computers. It connected the people sitting behind them. The consciousness internet does not connect brains. It connects the sovereigns or it connects the cattle. The infrastructure does not care which one you are. And tonight, it is the blueprint. We're going to discuss it, right? Now, there's a reason that I opened up with that quote, right? Because that opens the build. Most of the public conversation about brain-computer interfaces is framed as a medical story, right? We're talking about paralyzed patients. We've talked about restored functions. We've talked about people using their minds to control cursors on the screen. We talked about ALS recovery. We talked about vision restoration, right? All of those things are real and researchable and verifiable, right? All of that is honorable, right? But now, and look, all of that is public facing, right? You can go do the research and check that out, man, and see where it's at, right? The other, because we always, because it's construction, stay with me, the metaphor, right? So now we're building floors, right? Those are some of the floors that we've talked about that we've built. Now we're going to talk about the next 5 floors, right? The next 5 floors of the infrastructure, right? Because the infrastructure is what the patient cures, but it isn't advertised, right? Because the same wire that lets a paralyzed man text his daughter from a hospital bed is the same wire that lets a cloud platform store information, sell information, model information, and predict information in the inner state of every customer who signed the same release form that's probably on page 47, right? Listen, this isn't conspiracy, right? This is a business model. This is a publicly disclosed, and it's publicly disclosed by Microsoft, Google, Amazon, SpaceX, Meta, and Nokia, or NVIDIA, not Nokia, NVIDIA, right? And they're not hiding it. They are building it. They are bragging about it. They are filing patents. They are issuing earnings guidance, right? What's missing from the public conversation is the sovereignty layer, the framework that says before you sign, before you opt in, before you upgrade, before you let the wire reach the skull, you need to read the deed and know who owns what, right? You know where the signal goes, right? It's communication, right? You know how long it stays. You know who can query it, right? You know what compliance you have walked into, right? But sovereignty is not paranoia. Sovereignty is informed consent at the architectural level, right? The brass tacks is the receipt for that consent. You can be on a network as a sovereign, or you can be on a network as cattle. You decide, right? The infrastructure is identical. The contract is what changes, right? And to my smarts, the engineering verified, the contract is the work. To my final bosses, the platform is a vendor. The platform is not a friend. Run the procurement, right? And to my motivators, the mission is to wake your circle up before the upgrade reaches them, right? And to my warriors, the perimeter is your skull. Hold it, right? The brass tacks was delivered. Now we're going to talk about the blueprint, right? So here we are, doctoral level. No fluff, right? No fluff here. So stay with me, right? If you have questions, drop them in the chat. Drop your questions in the chat, right? The consciousness internet. Think about it. Consciousness internet. Listen, you don't understand what I'm saying. The consciousness internet, right? Defined operationally is a 4-layer physical stack. Each layer is verified engineering domain with its own funded research program, its own deployment timeline, and its own corporate stewardship. The layers are integrated by communication protocols that already exist or are under standards for body development, right? Think about it, right? Sit with that. And we're going to talk about the layers. So let's talk about layer 1. Layer 1 is the implant layer. That's the neural interface itself, the hardware that sits inside or on the surface of the skull, right? Not Neuralink, like Synchron, like Paradromics, right? BrainGate, or precision neuroscience, right? Or motive neuroscience, or neurotech, rather, right? The chips that read and stimulate the cortex, bandwidth measured in electrodes and megabits per second, right? Now, layer 2. Don't worry, if you don't get it right now, the layman's block is coming up. I'm gonna give you the layman's block after I give you my talking points, right? Layer 2, the body network layer. The signal channels that move data from the implant outward and from the body inward. This is where the internet of bio-nano things lives. Molecular communication, ultrasonic communication, radio frequency, the 6G plus wireless standards being developed by Frederick Alexander University, right? In Nuremberg, the German Research Center for Artificial Intelligence Consortium, right? Among others. And they are explicitly designed to integrate radio, ultrasonic, and molecular schemes inside the human body, right? And then there's layer 3, the edge and the cloud layer, right? The compute infrastructure that processes the neural data after it leaves the body, right? That's the edge, AI processors. Neural cloud platforms or hyperscaler partnerships, AWS like Azure, Google Cloud, plus some orbital data center initiatives that at Star Cloud and SpaceX and Project, what is that project called? Project Kuiper, right? They have petabytes of neural data that's required and dedicated infrastructure for the model, right? For the model. And then there's layer 4, the inner brain protocol layer, right? The software and standards that let one brain communicate with another through layers 2 and 3. BrainNet is the canonical research prototype. 3 subjects, right? EEG senders, transcranial magnetic stimulation receivers, internet as the channel, right? 81% task accuracy. And that information was published in 2019 and replicated and extended every year after, right? These 4 layers form a vertical column. The column requires the column, right? You cannot have a consciousness internet without all 4. A chip without a channel is a recorder. A channel without a chip is a pipe, and a chip without a cloud is a journal. A cloud without a protocol is a hard drive, right? The full stack is what changes the species, right? The species is us, right? So we're going to open each floor because this is the construction, right? We're going to read the schematics, look at the blueprint, and we're going to name the actors. We're going to trace the dollars, and we're going to name the sovereignty costs, right? And to my smarts, this is the schematic you came for. So sit back, right? The final bosses, this is the org chart of the platform that is about to become utility. And to my motivators, this is the awareness frame you transmit to your circle. And to my warriors, this is the terrain that maps out the next theater, right? So let's go with our layman's block. First layman's block. First. Man, thirsty, right? First layman's block. We're going to talk about time, content, and voice. Also in respect, right? So think about the regular internet. Yeah, the one that you're using right now to watch this podcast, right? Right. That we're live or you're watching and streaming, right? It has 4 parts, right? Your phone or your laptop, the Wi-Fi or the cable, the data center that's somewhere in Virginia, or the app that you just opened, right? Now you take all 4 of those parts, replace your phone with a chip in your head, replace the Wi-Fi with a wireless signal coming out of your body, replace the Virginia data center with a cloud built specifically for your thoughts, and replace the app with a protocol that lets your brain talk to my brain. And they're going to call it telepathy. Not really, but yeah, that's the concept. That is the consciousness internet. 4 parts, same logic, new location. The location is you, right? The location is you, right? The chip in your head exists. Neuralink put one in a man named Noland in 2024, right? 12 more and 12 more people by the end of 2025. UK and Canada also did the same thing in 2025. There's mass production that's planned throughout this year, the year we're in, right? And that's not a maybe. That is a corporate calendar, right? The wireless signal out of the body exists in a lab form. The 6G research consortia that's in Germany are building it, right? The standard does not have your name on it yet, but trust me, it will, right? And that's what this merger, that's what this is all about. We're talking about the things to come or the things that are happening, right? The cloud for your thoughts is being prepared as we speak. The same companies that store your photos are positioning to store your neural patterns. Microsoft, Amazon, Google, plus the new entrant that's in orbit. We got to talk about orbit. Oh boy, right? Technology that's going to be in space, man. Yeah, I'm working on a white paper for that. That's Star Cloud, right? And they raised $170 million in this month. No, in March, not May. In March of 2026 to build data centers in space. The reason is power. The Earth runs out of grid. Space is infinite, right? The protocol that lets one brain talk to another in real time has been demonstrated in the University of Washington lab, right? 3 brains, Tetris, playing Tetris, right? 81% accuracy. The prototype works, right? Now put it together, right? Put it all together, right? Stack technology, right? The road already runs to the lab. The road is being extended in a clinic, and the road is being widened to the consumer, you and me, right? The road has no toll booth, though, right? That's where the money comes in, right? Once the toll booth lands, you either own the lane you drive in or somebody else owns it for you. That is what's being built. That is what we're talking about tonight, right? That's the layman's block, right? And to my smarts, the schematic is now in your hands. Final bosses, this is your industry briefing, right? And to my motivators, this is the seed for the awareness conversation tomorrow morning, right? When you go to work. And to my warriors, this is your map of the new ground, right? That's the layman's block. That's floor 1, right? The implant. Remember that. Write it down. Floor 1, right? So, the neural implants is the entry node of the consciousness internet. Without an interface that reads or writes to neural tissue, the stack does not have an origin point. And therefore, the implant is at the gate. Whoever controls the gate controls the network. And this is why the capital is moving here first, right? Because Neuralink raised $650 million in Series E during 2025. The investors included ARK Invest, Sequoia Capital, Founders Fund, and I think, that was it. Yeah, that was it, right? The implant under deployment as N1, right? With 1,024 electrodes inserted by a robotic system. Wireless data transfer at megabyte per second rates. One device, right? One device. Convolutional neural networks for signal decoding at the edge, right? 12 patients with implants by the end of 2025 with UK trials at the University College of London hospitals and Newcastle. Canadian trials at Toronto's University Health Network. And then there was mass production and automated implementation and implantation that's planned for this year, right? Go look it up, all right? Paradromics received Food and Drug Administration investigational device exemptions, right? An exemption approval for the Connex system, beginning that's going to has a Connect One early year feasibility study, right? The Connexus is positioned for speech restoration as a primary endpoint. with a chip about the size of a watch battery and a separate wireless transmitter that's downside of the chest, right? Connected by that same wire that goes to the brain implant. The architecture is comparable to deep brain stimulation systems for Parkinson's disease, right? And Synchron operates the endovascular alternative, right? They have the stentrode that travels through blood vessels rather than open skull surgery, right? Lower invasiveness, lower bandwidth, right? But faster clinical adoption curve, right? Motive neurotech and precision neuroscience are extending the field with different bandwidth strategies. Paradromics has been publicly described by Motive's chief executive as having the highest bandwidth interface. Although long-term safety and efficacy data remain limited as early as this year, right? The convergence point is this. By the second half of this year, several thousand humans will carry production-grade neural implants, right? By 2028, the count will be tens of thousands, right? If Neuralink's automated implementation pipeline operates as projected, by 2030, BCI hardware is expected to evolve from a paralysis-specific therapeutic into a broader neural interface ecosystem that includes AI-enabled analytics, adaptive stimulation, and cloud-connected monitoring, right? You heard me. Cloud-connected monitoring, right? And according to industry market analysis that's being published right now this year, right? Sovereignty stakes is on the first floor. The implant is the keys to the house. The house is your cortex. Look, you need to read the warranty before you sign that paperwork, right? And to my smarts, the specs is the sheet that's going to be in your hands. The final bosses, this is the procurement frame, right? So get ready. To my motivators, this is the awareness payload that you've been looking for. And to my warriors, this is, again, the perimeter brief. So lock in, right? Lock in. And here's my latest block, right? We just talked about floor one. Floor one is the chip. The chip that goes into the skull. The chip reads the electricity in your brain and sends signals out, right? Some chips also write electricity back in, like two-way communication, right? And right now, the chips are FDA-tracked medical devices. They are approved for people who cannot move. They give those people the ability to text, browse, play games, talk to their family, right? The first patient was named Noland Arbaugh, right? I've talked about him before. He uses his chip every day. Now, 12 people have had the same procedure in 2025, right? The UK and Canada joined in their trials in 2025 also. The plan for this year is mass production, right? That means the surgery becomes faster, cheaper, and more automated. There are several companies in the race right now. Neuralink is the loudest. Synchron uses blood vessels instead of open skull surgery, right? Paradromics is focused on giving voice back to people who cannot speak. The Federal Drug Administration is tracking all of them, right? And here's the part that goes and doesn't get said about on the morning news, because I'm on the morning news and I'm looking like, why are these people talking about this stuff, right? The same chip that gives a paralyzed person freedom is the same chip that in 5 years gets offered to a non-disabled person for enhancements, better memory, faster reflexes, direct messaging, right? That is the consumer phase, right? The phase is coming, believe it or not. If you believe it or not, it's coming, right? Once the chip is consumer hardware, then it's a product. Products have contracts. Contracts have the print, right? And the fine print is where sovereignty lives or dies, right? And your job is now is not to fear the chip. Your job is to read the contract before you sign for said trip, right? The chip is just a tool. The internet is just a tool. AI is just a tool. The contract is the architecture, right? And to my smarts, you came here to understand the build. You now understand the gate. To my final bosses, your house has a new door, right? Now, who delivers the keys? Me, right? So, the motivators, the conversation at the dinner table this weekend just changed. You need to be talking about it, right? And to my warriors, the gate is the first checkpoint. Hold the line, hold the checkpoint, right? That's the layman's block. Now we move on to floor number 2. We're going to be talking about the body network layer, right? Floor 2, right? Doctoral. The signal that leaves the implant must travel somewhere, right? Communication signal must travel somewhere. The body network layer is the wireless physics between the chip and the world. This is the most technically experimental floor that's a part of the stack. It is also the most consequential because it determines latency, range, fidelity, and energy budget, right? 3 communication models that are converging at that layer, right? And here's one. Radio frequency. Radio frequency, that's wireless, right? The current Neuralink and Paradigmics designs transmit neural data wirelessly to the external receiver at megabit per second rates. This uses traditional electromagnetic spectrums, right? It also uses Wi-Fi 7, right? Which is certified by the Wi-Fi Alliance, and it's back in January of 2024, right? And it supports up to 30 gigabyte per second throughputs with low latency and multi-link operations, right? Wi-Fi 8, which is currently in development as IEEE 802.11bn, introduces distributed multi-link operation and integrates machine learning for intelligent scheduling, right? Both standards are being positioned as the local network through which neural device data passes before it reaches the cloud, right? Now, number 2, the molecular communication, right? This is where the Internet of Bio-Nano Things Consortium, right? Including the Frederick Alexander University, right, in Nuremberg, the Technology University of Berlin, the University of Liebach, right, and the German Research Center of Artificial Intelligence. They're all developing communication systems that operate inside the human body using molecular signaling, right? Recent peer-reviewed work in 2025 includes machine learning driven localization of infection sources in the human cardiovascular system, right? Experimental evaluation of molecular communication that runs in different fluids. The biosensor gateway development, right? The IOBNT framework is designed to interface with 6G networks. 3, the ultrasonic communication. These are sound waves used to transmit data between implanted devices and external receivers. Low energy, tissue friendly, limited bandwidth, used in conjunction with radio and molecular modalities for layered redundancy, right? And then the 6G research consensus, right? That's across multiple international consortia that identifies the Internet of Bio-Nano Things as one of the 3 pillars of beyond 5G systems, right? Alongside the Internet of Nano Things and the quantum communications. This is documented in IEEE communication publications and survey literature for 2023 through 2025, right? The strategic implication is this. Whoever owns layer 2 owns the toll booth between your skull and the rest of the network. Telecom carriers are positioning right now. Hyperscalers are positioning. National standard bodies are positioning. The spectrum is the new real estate, right? Sovereignty stakes lives on floor 2. The air between the implant and the world is no longer empty, right? The air is contested territory. Smarts, final bosses, motivators, warriors. The wireless layer is in the scope, right? And here's my layman's block, right? Here's my layman's block. Floor 2 is the air between the chip and the network, right? Too easy. And right now, the chip is a Neuralink, is a Neuralink chip, and it's in somebody's head, right? And it's sending data wirelessly to a smaller receiver outside the body. That signal travels on radio waves. The same physics as your phone, right? Too easy, right? Researchers are also working on 2 other ways for the body to send and receive data. One uses molecules, right? Real chemical messengers in your bloodstream that carry information from one nano device to another. Sounds like science fiction. I know what that is, right? It is being published in peer-reviewed journals in 2025, right? The other uses sound waves as frequencies you can't hear. These are low energy frequencies, right? Friendly to the tissue, right? Now, let's add it together and build a stack. The body becomes a small network, right? The chip in your head is the router. The molecules in your blood are the cables. The second waves are backup channels, and the Wi-Fi 7 or 6G connection in your home or office is on the ramp to the global network, right? The standard for this is being written right now. By 2030, the standard will be locked. By 2035, it will be deployed. Anyone who is alive right now will be able to, hopefully, if we all still here, you're going to be able to live, we're going to be alive to see that deployment, right? The companies and universities setting the standard are not only in America, they're in Germany, they're in South Korea, they're in China, they're in Japan, they're part of the EU, right? The standard is global, right? Which means the sovereignty conversation has to be global too. That's why we're here, right? You do not get to opt out by changing carriers. The protocol is the protocol, right? And here's the move. You don't need to memorize the engineering. Understand the stack, right? You need to memorize that the engineering is happening. Once you know that, the conversation with your family, with your team, with your kids, with your community, all of it changes. You stop reacting to news headlines and you start reading the architecture, right? And to my smarts, your technical fluency is the contribution. To my final bosses, your platform decisions are now neural decisions. To my motivators, your circle needs the awareness right now, not in 2030. To my warriors, the perimeter has expanded. The new perimeter is the spectrum, right? That is the layman's block, right? Now, let's move on to floor number 3. We got floor 3, 4, and 5, and then we're done, right? So, floor 3, right? Mass deployment of brain-computer interfaces, that's BCI, will generate petabytes of neural data per year, according to the medtech industry analysis published in early 2026. Petabytes of neural data require dedicated cloud infrastructure. Industry analysis specifically forecasts the emergence of partnerships between neurotech firms and major cloud providers, including AWS and Azure, right? To build dedicated neural cloud infrastructures. This is documented, right? This is documented in the Applying AI MedTech briefings published January of this year, right? 3 architectural platforms are emerging, right? 3. 1, the terrestrial hyperscaler partnership, right? 2, edge AI on the implant itself, right? And 3, that's the orbital data centers that we talked about in the beginning, right? The strategic implication is this: neural data may, within the next decade, transmit from skull on Earth to a satellite in low Earth orbit to a data center, either on the ground or in space, then back through the network to another skull. The latency project is tight, but feasible at 6G plus throughputs, right? Sovereignty stakes at floor 3. The cloud does not forget. The cloud does not die. The cloud has shareholders, right? Smarts, final bosses, motivators, warriors. The cloud floor is in your awareness, right? Now, here's my language block, right? We're just talking about floor 3 as the cloud. The cloud is the warehouse. And right now, your photos, your texts, your shopping history, your videos, your contracts, all live in a warehouse owned by Amazon, Microsoft, Google, or Apple, right? Floor number 3 is the same warehouse, right? With a new product on the shelf, your neural patterns, right? The companies building this are not hiding it. They have published it. They have raised capital for it. They have named it. Neural cloud is the term used in industry analysis. AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud are positioning to host it. The compliance framework is being compared to the privacy law in Europe called GDPR, right? But for thoughts instead of emails, right? And there's a second location that's coming. Woo! Space. Don't we love space, right? Because the Earth is running out of cheap electricity for AI data centers. So the companies are moving them up, right? StarCloud just raised $170 million in early 2026 to build data centers in orbit, right? SpaceX is repositioning Starlink to do the same thing at scale. Amazon and Microsoft are building their versions. And by 2030, some of your data, including potentially your neural data, may be processed in low Earth orbit, right? Why does this matter for sovereignty? Because the warehouse is owned. The owner sets the rules. The owner can change those very rules, right? The owner can also sell access. The owner can lose the keys. Oops. Right? You already lived through some of this on social media. You've seen it, right? You posted for free. They sold the audience to advertisers, right? They sold the data to brokers, right? They paid no rent to you for the warehouse space your life is filling, right? The next round is the same playbook with a new product. Your inner state, your attention, your memory, your associations, your stress response, your dreams, right? The sovereign reads the warehouse contract before stocking the shelf. The cattle just walks in to that same warehouse and starts unloading without asking questions, right? And to my smarts, the warehouse is technical. The contract is the work. To my final bosses, you negotiate procurement every day. Negotiate this one also, right? And to my motivators, your circle needs the warehouse story before they sign anything next year, right? And to my warriors, the warehouse is on the ground. Hold the high ground, right? That was the layman's block. Now, let's go to flow 4, right? Let's go to flow 4, right? The fourth layer of the stack is your inner brain protocol, right? The standard that lets brain A communicate with brain B, right? Through layers 1, 2, and 3. This is the layer that turns infrastructure into a network. This is the layer that earns the name consciousness internet, right? The canonical research prototype is BrainNet, published in Scientific Reports in April of 2019, right? By Linux Lang, right? Darby, Lucy, Justin Abernathy, Chantal Pratt, and Rahesh Rule, right? All at the University of Washington and Carnegie Mellon, right? The digital object identifier is 10.1038 slash S41598 019 489-7, right? I'm gonna read that. I have it right here. I'm gonna read that again. It's called a digital object identifier. If you want to go look it up, right? It's 10.1038 slash S41598 19 41895-7, the digital object identifier, right? Go check it out if you're interested, right? Listen, the architecture of those three subjects, right? Two are designated as senders. One is designated as the receiver. Senders wear electro philology caps, right? Their brain signals are decoded in real time. The receiver wears a transcranial magnetic stimulation rig, right? Decoded signals from the senders are converted into magnetic pulse that is delivered into the receiver cortex, right? The task, the Tetris game that we was talking about, right? The receiver cannot see the screen. The senders can. The senders decide whether the falling blocks should rotate. They communicate the decision to the receiver through the brain activity. The receiver perceives a phosphene, right? A flash of light induced by the magnetic stimulation, right? And based on the flash, the receiver acts. The results, 5 groups of 3. Average task accuracy, 81.25%. The researchers explicitly framed the work as a step forward in their own words, right? A social network of brains. This is the prototype. It's non-invasive, networked, multi-party, and successful. And it's documented. And it's been replicated. And it's extended, right? The trajectory from BrainNet 3-person Tetris task in 2019 to what is progressed through wearable interbrain synchrony systems, including SciNet, or through reviews in IEEE journals, identify beyond 5G wireless technologies that potentially support direct brain-to-brain communication. The protocol layer is the active research frontier, right? The convergence point is layer 4, and that is what assembles layer 1 through layer 3 into the coherent network. Without layer 4, you have isolated implants, wireless channels, and clouds, right? With layer 4, you have a fabric. The fabric is what the user is invited into, and the fabric is what the user becomes a part of. Sovereignty stakes at floor 4. The protocol is the constitution of the new network. Whoever writes the protocol writes the rules of who can connect, who can read, who can speak, who can be silent, right? To my smarts, final bosses, motivators, warriors, the protocol floor is in your hands, right? And here's my language block, right? Here's my language block. Somebody said, just read the language block. My God. Hey, thanks for that. That's hilarious. Thank you. That's hilarious. I know. Just read the language block. Okay. Listen, but you have to understand this is part of my doctoral research. This is part of my dissertation. I have to do this, right? Understand the process, man. The architecture and the frameworks that are put and laid down right now. It's all part of the plan, right? So, language block. Flow 4 is the rule book. The rule book that tells the brain how to talk. It tells the brain A how to talk to brain B, right? Through the chip, the wireless layer, and the cloud, right? The prototype already exists. A research team at the University of Washington and Carnegie Mellon University built a 3-person setup in 2019, 7 years ago, right? 2 senders, 1 receiver. They played Tetris together using their brains, with the senders telling the receiver whether to rotate the block. They got the task right 81% of the time on average, and they called it BrainNet, right? They published it in a journal called Scientific Reports, right? 7 years later, the field is even bigger. The technology is more refined. The wireless is faster. The cloud is bigger. The implants are real. Everything is BrainNet did in a lab in 2019 can be assembled with off-the-shelf components in 2026. So here's the sovereignty stake that I need you to understand. So burn it in, right? The consciousness of the internet is not a question of it. It is a question of when, who writes the rules, and what your seat looks like at the table. The seat options are sovereign or cattle, right? The infrastructure is identical. The contract is what changes, right? The fourth pillar receives the stake the same way. Smarts, your job is to read the architecture and translate it to your peers. The engineering literacy is the new financial literacy, right? So my final bosses, your job is to negotiate every neural product, every cloud contract, every wireless service like a procurement officer instead of a fan, right? Vendors are vendors. Vendors are not friends. Understand the difference, right? Motivators. Your job is to bring awareness to the circle while there is still time to choose. Awareness in 2026 is worth more than awareness in 2032, right? And my warriors, your job is defined by the perimeter. The perimeter has moved. It is no longer the front door. It is the spectrum. It's the cloud. It's the protocol. And it's in your skull, right? You need to hold all four. This is the rebirth lens, right? The old version of you signaled every license agreement, not signaled, signed. Yeah, sorry. Signed every license agreement without reading. When was the last time you read a license agreement that you got with your cell phone? I'll wait. Drop it in the chat. Drop it in the chat. This is doctoral level. Look, this is layman's block. I'm just asking a question. Did you read the contract? No. No, you didn't, right? So that old version needs to end. You need to stop doing that, right? Read the license agreement, right? The new version you read will be the deed. The consciousness internet is the biggest license agreement in human history. You need to read it, or somebody else writes it for you, right? Listen, they write it for you all the time, and you just sit back and accept it. If you don't think I'm serious about this, look at your life. Look at the technology that we're having right now. Did you ask for the internet? No. Did you ask for technology? Did you ask for cell phones? No. Did you ask for the computer devices and flat screens that are in your cars? No, you did not. Did you ask for that flat screen TV that you're looking at? No, you didn't, right? The technology is going to keep evolving, whether you agree to it or not. It's time to start reading the license agreements that comes with that technology, right? You need to read it. That's the layman's block, right? Sorry to get serious on you guys, but hey, had to be said, right? We're almost done. Give me. Tonight is just, I'm going over just 5 minutes over, right? Just give me 5 more minutes, right? And I'll be done. It's a short night for merger. Usually we go an hour and a half or more, right? But tonight I only need 5 more minutes, man. 5 more minutes, right? The next application is the application block, right? And this is what this is actually an assignment I have for you guys, right? And this assignment is going to move through the build of the screens that are in your life, right? And I need you to do this for the next 7 days, 5 steps. And these are non-negotiable, man. I need you to do your homework and come back, right? Go do your homework, right? This is day 1. Read your technology architecture again, right? Then, once this show is published, pull up the show notes, right? You can find them on the website, right? You can find them on YouTube, right? Just hit translate. Reread the 4 layers that I just spoke of, right? Implant, body network, cloud, protocol, right? Memorize the order. The order is the map. I'm going to have drawings that I'm putting together that are part of the white paper that's coming soon, right? Day 2, audit your current cloud footprint, right? Pick one cloud account. It could be your email, photos, files, social, whatever. Open the privacy settings. Read what you've signed. You may not have read it since you opened that account, right? Read it now. Just one. It's time to start building that muscle, right? Then on day 3, audit your wireless footprint, right? Look at all the devices that are in your home that are on your network, right? Your phone, your tablet, your watches, your speaker, your camera, your doorbell, your cat, your ring, your thermostat. Note which one have a microphone. Note which ones know where you are. Note which ones have a privacy off switch. You feeling unsettled? You should be. That's the point, right? And then day 4, have the conversation with one person in your circle, your bounce back person, right? Or somebody. Pick one. Somebody who understands this stuff, right? The conversation is about awareness, not fear. Tell them about the BrainNet experiment. Go look real smart to them, right? Tell them about Neuralink reaching mass production this year. Tell them the consciousness internet is being built. Ask them what they think. Ask them if they even heard about it. Ask them if they heard about IOBNT, right? The conversation is the seed. It's time to start planting some seeds, Sovereign, right? And then day 5, pick one platform you currently use. Go read the actual terms of service in full, right? Not the summary, the full document. Highlight the data clauses. Highlight the data retention. Highlight the third-party sharing. This is the future contract looks like. That's what it looks like. The future contract just has neural data added into it, right? And then day 6, write one paragraph in your notes app, right? Title it My Sovereignty Contract, right? Write what you will and will not consent to in the next 24 months when neural products begin to enter the consumer market. And then say to yourself, the final boss mentioned this. He just mentioned this, right? And you will remember. You're going to remember, right? Write what you will and won't consent to, right? And do that for the next 24 months before the products come out, right? They're going to be on the consumer market very soon, right? Write it before the product exists. Decide before the dopamine arrives, because it's going to be a new product. It's a new shiny thing. You know, we as humans, we love the shiny things. Oh my God, the shiny, more shiny. That's what we do, right? Decide before the dopamine arrives. And then day 7, bring the assignment back, right? We're going to drop it in the comments on the next episode, or actually do it on this episode, right? Find this episode and drop it in the comments, right? Final Boss Community reads what the Final Boss Community writes. Your sovereignty contract is a contribution, right? To my smarts, the audit is in the technical exercise. To my final bosses, the contract is the procurement exercise. To my motivators, the conversation is the multiplier. To my warriors, the perimeter is the deliverable, right? The day 7 standard is the standard. 7 days from tonight is Wednesday, May 20th, right? That is Merger 22. We return there with the audit complete and contract written, right? Now, let's close. Right? Let's close. Tonight, we opened Arc 4, the consciousness internet, the construction, right? We named the 4-layer physical stack, the implant, the body network, the cloud, the protocol. We tried every layer to verified research, named the corporate stewards, and exposed the sovereignty stake. We honored BrainNet as the conical multi-mind prototype. We delivered the 7-day assignment. The lens is the rebirth. The lens says the old version of you walked into this episode. The new version of you walks out with the architecture in hand. You're heavily armed, right? Next Wednesday, May 20th, Merger 22 ends, episode number 243. Topic, wireless brain-to-brain communication and its current research, right? We're going to go deeper into floor 2, the air between the implant and the rest of the world. We trace the 6G plus internet of bio nano things. We're going to research through the consortium in well detail, right? We name the spectrum players. We extend tonight's foundation, right? These sister shows that are happening this week and next, tomorrow night, with special guest Thursdays, will be the mirror chair, right? And then sitting down Sundays, Arc 3 closes with the sanctuary, right? Motivation Mondays with the construction, and it opens for Arc 4 for the other shows, right? The ignition seat. Listen, Tech Tuesdays with the Sensei is always the pressure test, right? And between now and then and Friday, woohoo, my MBA conferral, right? At the University of Maryland Global Campus. Shout out to them. I walk across that stage this Friday, right? The Sovereign crosses the academic stage. 5 days from now, the crown lands midweek. The build does not stop. And to my smarts, you came for the schematic. The schematic is yours. It's time to use it. To my founder bosses, you came for the procurement frame. The frame is yours. Run the audit. To my motivators, you came for the awareness payload. The payload is hot. It's time to transmit. To my warriors, you came for the perimeter brief. The perimeter is named. Hold the line. The consciousness internet is being built whether you are in it or not, or if you logged in or you're not logged in. The sovereign reads the deeds. The cattle just walks in. The infrastructure does not care. The contract is what changes. And tonight, you got the deed. Now read it. Listen, I am the final boss. This is the Final Boss podcast. We are the Sovereign. Thank you for my smarts, motivators, warriors, and final bosses for joining me tonight. It seems like a short show. We just went over a little bit longer than an hour. I'm telling you, man, Merger goes in for an hour 30 or even longer, right? Listen, this is the voice of the microphone, right? This was Mergers Wednesdays, episode 21. Final Boss Podcast, episode 238, season 4, the rebirth, year 1, arc 4, the consciousness internet. The forge is closed. The blueprint is yours. The build resumes at 4 in the morning. Family, until next time, it is go time, right? All aboard the Fired Up train. That is our show. And as always, there is a heavy pain that comes with discipline, but there is an even heavier pain that comes with regret. I am here. We are here. And as always, be balanced, be equal, and be smart. And if I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. That is our show. Thank you for joining us, man. Until next time, I will see you again tomorrow for special guest Thursdays with a special guest or a town hall. See you there, 9 p.m. live.
It's Merger Wednesday. The countdown continues. 7 years until the convergence of biology and machine. Neural interfaces are no longer theory. They're the scaffolding of a new consciousness. But what does that mean for identity? For free will, for the soul? This is where we build the frameworks for ethical, philosophical, and spiritual growth for the next phase of human evolution. We're not just upgrading hardware. We're rewriting what it means to be human. Each week, we explore the biotech breakthroughs, decode the cognitive shifts, and prepare the mind for the merge. This isn't about fear, it's about readiness. Because the future isn't waiting. It's already wiring in. This is about preparing human consciousness for the most significant leap in our species' history. If you think this is just about chips and brains, you're not ready. But we'll get you there, one Wednesday at a time. So sit back and relax as we take you on a journey on Merger Wednesday.